Welcome everyone. We want to talk about today. We want to talk about the open source because I feel like it's something that people is very underrated, and people don't really truly see the value of open source contribution. Which I want to talk about. Why? What's the value here, and how you can do it. I think it's very simple. It's just that people, if you Google, you get different results, and it can be confusing. But it's very straightforward how you can go about it. So we will have hands-on as well. If you guys have your Git ready, if anyone, if people are watching from YouTube, because we're going to have this on YouTube as well, you can follow along. It's going to be very simple hands-on project. We'll do the open source. We can contribute together. If you don't have it, you can do it right now. I'm going to share the resources I have, so you can just follow along. The resources that I have, it will go step by step. Even if you don't have a Git setup or you don't know about GitHub, it will explain everything for you. Okay, so what and why we need to contribute to open source, right? And one of the things I mentioned in my Twitter, I feel like a lot of people joined from there. But if you are watching from YouTube or you joined from other resources, one of the obvious ones is if you want to get into software engineering, you probably have noticed that one of the things they ask you is your GitHub, right? So having a GitHub portfolio can really help. A strong one can really help you to differentiate from the crowd. Now, one of those ways is, let's say you're a front-end engineer or you want to do ML, right? You want to do backend. Like as a front-end engineer, one of the frameworks that is being used is React. Now, imagine you have some contribution to it, and your recruiter or your the manager or the interviewer is asking about why we need to hire you or what's something complex you have done, and you tell them about your contribution in React, that framework. That's probably what they're using. And so that can really, probably even secure that job for you. Because I really doubt out of the 1,000 people that they have, or out of the 10 people that they're interviewing, the other 9 also has something to offer like that. But that is the obvious one. The thing that people are missing is the educational part of this. So I personally at Microsoft, so I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. I'm part of also Microsoft GitHub organization, .NET organization, and Azure organization. And I have Sumit with me, which also is a Microsoft engineer, which is going to talk about how you can even improve further your GitHub. So one of the ways I learn is when I make some changes to our framework and people, experts, seniors, they give me feedback. I can say 90% of my understandings from the framework and from the software engineering principles is from those feedback. They either say, you can use this approach, or when it comes to object-oriented programming, you can maybe do like a factory design pattern, like all those design patterns when it comes to very large scale. And another one is just learning the framework. Sometimes you know one part of the framework, but then they tell you, okay, there's this part as well, and that's how you learn it. Now, imagine you contribute to React, for example. I'm just giving an example, React. And when it comes to that, people that they give you feedback is not just from one organization anymore. It's from around the world, from Europe, India, different backgrounds. Whether they study in MIT or IIT, whether they are in Meta or Google. It is like you make a change, you give it out, and you say all the experts from the world, please give feedback. That's what is happening here. So there's enormous amount of learning that you can get from the feedbacks you receive from those maintainers or other people that they're contributing. And another one is the networking. As I said, as these people give you feedback, as you do this, you get to know each other, you get to know those people. I've heard a lot how people, they get hired by just contributing in open source. Mostly the way that happens is, that's another way, right? Is when you contribute to smaller companies, not like React necessarily, but smaller companies that they're doing open source, that your contribution is visible to even the founder, if the founder is also technical and does contribution, or the managers, right? And the people see it when you do it a couple of times. What happens is then they want to hire you. So a lot of value here. Learning, building GitHub portfolio, and especially when you do more in a smaller companies, when you contribute to small companies, it will get you a job. So very important. So how do you do it? I think it's very straightforward. We're going to do one simple practice. So we just get to know the whole end to end. And I'll give you one example that I did and how I find the issues and the resources that I want to contribute. So the first step is which repository you want to contribute, right? There's different ways to go about it. Let's say you are a front-end engineer, you want to show your contributions to front-end, so you probably choose React, the framework you use, or any other, so like Redux or any state management or other smaller repositories. Another one I personally face a lot is when I use open source in my own projects, and I'll give you this example for you. That there is a need for me that this open source doesn't have. So I go and contribute that feature to that open source. That's like something that also you can do, which is really cool. So something you use, you need something from them, you contribute, right? And you have it right there. Once you do that, then it comes a couple of steps. I'm going to go through this, right? You need to fork it. Fork basically means you create a personal repo. From that repo, you create a personal one in your personal GitHub, right? So you have, for example, you have the React repository that is there. You create a clone of it in your own GitHub. Cloning means when you have it in your local, like now you download it in your local, right? So that's the steps. First, you need to create a personal branch. So with the changes you make, it goes to your personal branch. You don't want to make the changes right away to the actual repository. And then you clone it so you can make the changes. The other step is you need to set up your local, right? There's different maybe packages that are using, like Node, for example, right? So you need to set up your local environment. I'm going to go through this too, how you do it. Then you either know what changes you need to make, or if you don't know, you can explore the code base. Even if you know what changes to make, you probably need to explore the code base to see where you need to make that changes. You create a new branch, you push it, then you make a pull request. I guess it's going to be very abstract right now, but we will do it. And then you will receive feedback and you continue with doing that. So before I give this general tip, this is what I do, some small changes there. I'm going to actually do one end-to-end contribution. Let me share this to both our Meet, Google Meet, and also Discord. If you're following along in the Discord. So there is this repository. Is built exactly for people that they want to do their first contribution. It's called first contribution, right? The purpose of this is that you just go end to end. You just do the cloning, do the fork, do the cloning, push it, get the feedback, and get it merged. Just that you go end to end, and you learn it. It's like really made for practicing. If you see, there are 80,000 forks here. So that's like 80,000 people use this to learn. So the first step I said, you will see how simple this is. The first step I said is you need to fork this, right? Fork it. Okay, well, you need to log in here. Quickly do that. So when you fork it, it asks you if you want to create a repository, which you can just go with the default, which is the name of the repository you're forking. So while we're waiting for this, if you're following along, or whether now or in even future, again, you can go to this first contributions. Something I forgot to mention is also, so you see when I fork it, it comes to my personal GitHub. That's what forking is, right? So now you have it in your personal. And you will get the exact copy. Now, every step I'm talking, they have it in their first page, the README page, right? How you do it. They even have how to set up Git. That is what you need to do all these things, because Git is what we use for all the, versioning and all those Git versioning and managing, and the GitHub is built on top of it. So it's very common. Fork it, with screenshots, it gives you all the examples here. The command for Git cloning, right, which I'm going to use as well. And then where you find the link to clone. Clone means now you download it. There's different ways of doing it. SSH is one. I don't think you need SSH. You can just use HTTPS. SSH has some process. You need to set up keys and everything. And then you create a branch. You make your changes. what they're saying is all you need to do is just contribute, just add your name. Really, the purpose of this is learning, right? So just add your name to contributors and then push it. And then the next step is now you want to merge this to the actual repository. And then you put a comment, you get feedback. This is all it is, right? Now, this one is very educational part of it. I want everyone who wants to learn, whether now or in future, definitely go through this just end to end so you learn. I will give you a real example as well, how I go about it in a real example, how I found the issue. So when you have this fork, right, just you fork it, now you need to clone it. Clone, again, download it. You can just get this HTTPS, copy it, go to your Visual Studio. And there's different options, by the way, right? You can even download it. Really, you don't need to even use the commands. You can use GitHub desktop as well. So yeah, let's do this part. So I can show end to end how this works. Let me open the PowerShell. There we have it. So let's see what we have in contributors. So as you can see, there's a lot of names here. Basically, all the people that they wanted to learn, they just started adding their names, and that's what it really want. That's what the practice is. You just go ahead and add your name there, so you can just do your contribution end to end. So, for example, I can put my name here, my first contribution. I think what they're doing here is just adding their GitHub. Save it. First contribution. Commit. Actually, So one step that you want to do is create a branch first, right? So you open the terminal again. First contribution. And then you can add your name here. So what I needed to do is, so when you clone it, right, you have the entire thing. You can see, well, this one, not everyone has it. It's just a setup on Visual Studio. So what you need to do is first create a different branch, right? Because you want to contribute not on the main repository, right? You want to create on either whether you're adding a feature, you can say, my first feature or the whatever feature I'm trying to do, just a name that people can track, kind of matches what you're doing. And then you just add your name in the contributors, and then you can push it. Now, let me do one thing here. Add this here so it shows here, because what I did is I saved that in the main one, which is not something you want to do. And then you can just say my first contribution, for example, in this case, right? Otherwise, I can show you how the comments can be like in a real actual projects. But we can just do my first contribution here, and then you do a git push. Yeah, you set up the upstream, and boom. All right, we're done with the VS Code. Let me go back to the Chrome now. So after that, once you push it, you have your branch, right? Let's see what here says. Says when first of all, create a new branch, right? Go to your branch, make your changes, commit it. What you want to do is do a compare and pull request, meaning now from your own personal repository, which is a copy of the actual one, and you want to do pull request to the actual repository, and then you will get some feedback if there is any, and then if you need to make some changes, and then you get approval, hopefully, and then you will have your code in the actual repository. So simply, you just do compare and pull request. Here would be the actual repository, and you want the head to be your own repository. Now, title, whatever you want to add, you can just say, it's really for practice, this one, right? So first contribution, they already have some boilerplates for you that you can read. I guess just saying, yeah, you can do this and git add this. If you're doing something to check this before, yeah, just like some, I guess, feedback they're trying to get. Like, yeah, I had fun going through this tutorial. If there's any suggestions you have for them to improve, so it goes um, part of the PR, right? And they will approve it, and you will have it in you will have your code and your name in the first contribution. It is very fun. I really suggest everyone to do it and have their name there. It's just really cool to go over all those names, all the people that they did their first contribution, right? Um, and you do the create pull request, and it just goes there, and you wait for them. You wait for people to give you feedback. Now, I am going to go over some small adjustments here. How I do it. So I really suggest you do the practice one. But how do you do like the real one, right? So I personally, when I want to make some changes, I go to the issues that they have, right? So let's say, for example, React. They talk about there are issues here. There's 722. I remember I saw on another one like Microsoft. I don't know which repository was it, but there was like 5,000 issues. So all these public open source Gits that you go, you can see there's thousands of issues that you can start contributing. So I think because my GitHub is connected, I can sign up. Okay, so here, for example, the React that I talked about, you can go to issues that are there. So you don't even need to think about, okay, what contributions do I need to make? All you need to do is just go to issues and go over these. Try to see if you can find a small one. It's probably a perfect way to start. And read through them, see what bug they found or what are suggesting, right? Just suggesting that, okay, can we add this feature? And you can say, okay, I can work on this, and then you start working on it. That would be my suggestion. Another thing I want to mention is when you go to any open source repo, one way to get started is go to their contribution guideline, for example, here for this repository. So you can go there. They'll teach you, what are the things you need to look for, code of conduct, and all the things you need to look for. How do you do features? How do you do bugs? How do you do the title, right? The one that I said, that was just practice. But every open source has its own way. They don't want everyone to do things differently, right? So another thing I've noticed in big repositories, they have a good first issues. These are the ones that are tagged for people that are doing their first contribution. So you can click on it, and they're tagged as good first issues, right? They're labeled. And these are supposedly simple, low-hanging fruit contributions that you can make. So remember that's something you can start with. Issues is where you want to go and contribute in the guidelines is where you want to start on how, to do things and how to set up your environment. That's another thing that they most likely going to mention the contributing guide. If there's no contributing guideline, it probably the repository is not accepting other people's contribution, right? So one way to know if they are accepting contributions is if they have this guideline. So what else I have here? So go with the contributions. You usually find it in this file. And then communicate with the maintainers what you're trying to do. And then keep your fork in sync. So if you're doing a long contribution, right, it might take some time. So there might be some changes already in the repository. So you want to make sure you're in sync with that. Now, I'm going to go over a real example end to end, how I did it. So again, one of the ways, as I said, to do contribution is when you're using the open source in your own project, and there is a need that you have, right? And that open source is not supporting it. So in my project, I wanted to do social media icons, and I found this repository, React Social Icons, very simple to use. But the issue is I wanted the icons to be square. You probably have noticed in a lot of places it's not always circle, right? Sometimes you need a square. Now, sometimes it's not very simple to override, but there wasn't an easy way to override. This is how I do it. What I do is I go to issues, right? And let's see, there's one here. And I make a suggestion because they might not be welcome. They might not want that feature, right? So you want to make sure you're not wasting your time. So I highly suggest if you want to do something, whether you found the issue you want to work on, put it there. and ask people if you can contribute. So if other people are seeing it, they know someone is working. If it's a feature you want to contribute, right? Make sure you put it. You open an issue and say, it would be nice. For example, here it would be nice if we can have adjustable radius, so it's not always circle. And you will see their feedback. Another thing is, I also make sure that I bring up my approach here, right? Like, for example, here I say, I can do it whether with a dedicated prop or I can do custom styling override, right? So that way, right, I propose a feature and I propose the different ways you can go about this. And here I see that they say, well, we don't believe custom override would work. Probably simple prop can help with this, right? And then please refer to contributing guideline. Again, every open source repo will have a contributing guideline. And that's how you know if they are welcoming people to contribute. And it makes sense, right? Because they don't want everyone to do things differently. And that's about it. And then I started creating my repo. Same thing, same process. You go here, you fork it, right? And then you clone it. Don't do what I did right now. Make sure you create a new branch, right? I can show you, for example, the naming of mine. Most likely in the contribution documents also, you will see how they want the naming and everything to be. So let's go back here. This is my pull request, right? So I made a branch called my name. This is how I usually do it. My name and then feature, like feature square icons, right? Just something that is easy understandable what we're trying to do. I pushed it, and then as I showed, you need to do a pull request from head to be your feature, right? For in your personal branch, and the base to be the actual project. Which, if you do it by default, GitHub already has that for you. And then you come here. So part of the contribution guideline, right? They wanted you to do a screenshot of UTs, right? Makes sense. They wanted if it helps to put some screenshots, so it helps the maintainers to make sure everything is working. So very simple. I put a comment. It's a very common practice. If you're adding a feature, you just add feat, right? If there's a bug, you put bug, and you explain what you're doing. That's the title. And in GitHub, you can put a hashtag, the number of your issue. This is what I do. If it's not even in contribution, I really like to mention the issue we are trying to resolve. So I just tag it here. So if you click on it, you can go back to our discussion why this event started, right? So very good practice, I think, for everyone to do it. And sometimes it's even asked for you to do it. And then I explain, this is my UT result. This is the screenshot of the square box, right? And the changes I made. Now, obviously, there's feedback sometimes, right? They say, for example, they asked to do some renaming here. Some UTs was not necessary, right? And then good job on the other unit tests that I've done. I made that changes. UT is still passing and waiting for this to get approved and go to the next version of this repository. So now, this very common used, what do you call it? The common use package for social media archives. Now people, potentially thousands of even more, might use this feature, right? So it's really fulfilling too. So there's the learning part, there's the GitHub portfolio I'm building, but can be even fulfilling. People use this repository. And maybe if they need the square one, now they can use the feature I contribute. But then there's the learning part, right? Either it's here or just learning by going through this project and exploring this repository. Let me tell you what I learned. What I learned is when I go to their GitHub contribution, let me see if I can find it here. Usually is in, so yeah, here, contributing. Contributors are welcome, right? You go here. So the way this person set this up is by just running a script, you can set up your entire environment. Let me see if I can find that file. It should be in the repository, the main page. Let's see, is it the CLI? I think it's a CLI. So it was very interesting that they basically have this script that sets up your environment end to end. If you need Node.js or you need any other packages that they're using, right? If you don't have White, or Playwright, or which are using for testing. So by just using this command, it end-to-end everything you need, right? It just sets it up. Now, it's very similar to if people are using Docker, it's very similar to like having the Docker image. It has pretty much everything for you. But I think this is more general, right? Even if you're not using Docker, whatever environment you use, you just use this script and it just installs everything for you. And that's like what I learned and I'm trying to use in my own projects that, just basically just copying most of this person's work to whatever I, I have another person to contribute. All I can tell them is just like run this command and it will set everything for them. So there's always learning, right? Whether you get from the feedback or whether you're exploring the repository yourself. And as I said, that's probably why people look for these contributions, right? Because they know if you have made some contribution to some big front end package that they're using, they know you have explored the repository in deep level and you have a good understanding of it. So I think it's very simple. Again, different ways to find which repository you want to contribute, as I mentioned. So see which works for you. It depends on your goals, right? Want to contribute, look for issues. This is the best way to look for. And how to do it? Simple steps, right? Fork, clone, then create a new branch, push it, and then you merge it. And then you wait for feedback and then see if it gets approved. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me see what else I have. Yeah, contributing. Yeah. So I think this stuff can really, really put everyone that's looking for a job, can put them separate from the crowd. I really think this is very helpful. I really think it helps for everyone, for deep understanding, right? Deep understanding of these principles and software engineering principles, because, these are very high quality code. So, when you explore it, you learn how to do things. And I really suggest, if you're watching this from YouTube, I suggest join our Discord because, doing it with the community, helps. I'm getting some feedback, Sumit.
Okay.
Yeah. Just yeah. So if you join the community, it really helps to do it together. We have our open source channel. That's where we want people to like just help each other, whether it's finding a repository, if they find an interesting repo to contribute. Also, I'm going to share some repos that are very high impact, whether there's a big repository or there are companies that if you contribute, you can get noticed by even the founder or managers. And they can just basically hire you after you do some contributions and they like your work. So stick around in the open source hack channel. That's where we're going to dedicate to this for people to make those contributions. Other than that, if you have questions, you can also ask there. Whether people there are gonna answer or is me and other mentors, they can help you there. So I'm going to go to the next one, which is now that you have done open source, what is next, right? The next step is projects, right? To build projects that are complex potentially, right? That they can help you to showcase, right? It's like building a portfolio to showcase to hiring managers to get hired. I will let this to Sumit present what will be the next steps and how can you even further improve your GitHub.
Right.
Go ahead, Sumit.
Right. Thank you, Ali. Yeah, I think that was a wonderful way to involve people.
You're mute. You're mute now.
Okay. Yep. Now I'm on mute. Right. Thank you, Ali. Thank you so much. I think that's a very good, way to involve people to contribute to the open source and, the guidelines which you provide, like simple steps. I think those are, the key steps to get a job. So I would like to introduce myself first and I will start my name is Sumit and I have over 15 years of experience in tech. I hold a PhD in wireless research and computer networking from Rutgers University, USA. And I have 2 master's degree with expertise in network virtualization, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the hackathon, and the whole purpose was there to to give you a chance to connect with others, collaborate, and push the boundaries of what we can achieve together. So when I say achieve together, this is what Ali mentioned, right? These are the open source repos, and you can contribute to those repos to gain experience for yourself and also helping the world in that domain, right? So that's definitely one of the things which you should do if you want to get a job in tech, you want to build your career in tech. But I would also like to invite you further to join the TechX Fellowship. So we run a TechX Fellowship program which is designed to help you build your next step in tech career. Now, how we can do that? One thing is that you need to have a lot of components, and one of the component is obviously to contribute to these projects, which Ali explained. Second, you need to build a strong portfolio. What this the title of this slide says, right? And how you can build the portfolio is by continuously learning. Obviously, if I could solve all the issues of the world by myself without learning, I would do that, right? I would go to GitHub. But you need to learn those techs. So if you're interested in certain tech, learn that tech and then contribute. Or why contributing? Learn. Or go hand in hand, right? Like do everything together. And that is possible by doing some hands-on project yourself. For example, in our previous fellowship, fellows actually design a lot of front end and back end components. Some mentors ran the program for the front end components where they build a web scraper, how you can scrape data from Meta, for example, and all by themselves, right? Some of the mentors, they started doing the LLM stuff, and they like the fellows came up with huge concepts, and they were able to accomplish those on their own by building, for example, an email sorter, an automated email reader, and an automated summarizer for your emails with a chatbot which will respond on your behalf and let you review the content before responding. And there were like lot of other ideas they were able to accomplish. For example, one of the idea was like newsletter summarizer. In our emails, we have a lot of newsletters coming in from various companies for the latest in tech things, right? And this person built something like a newsletter summarizer using AI and ML, and uses like the latest LLM concepts. Build that, put it on the GitHub, and there you go. There you have like something to write on your CV, right? The other component which I want to talk about when you are building your successful career in tech is networking. And this is like, believe me, this is very important. You can be doing like the best work in the world, but if you can't network it or you can't showcase it to others, right? It's very difficult to get a job, especially during these times when networking has become like the most important thing. So you need to be able to connect to professionals in your field who will be able to guide you, mentor you. And so when I just throw in the word mentorship is actually like one of those components which I say like build your portfolio. You need to have like a good mentor in your to build your career, and then gain the guidance from these experienced leaders in tech. So this is what we offer using the TechX Fellowship program. It can support you in various ways by offering you mentorship, the real-time projects to work on. And I think currently we have tracks on robotics, machine learning, and front end. And we are also adding more tracks. And then you will also have like a valuable networking opportunities with previous TechX fellows and the fellows you will be working with. So if you register today, TechX is actually offering you $100 free credit to join the program or to kickstart your journey. You can use that credit without any restriction to join any of our programs. So if you just sign in today, and I think this is the sign in link right there, and if you scan the QR code, you'll be able to sign into the TechX dashboard. So you will get your personalized dashboard, an agile way of building things, and a guided mentor, so who can guide you to build a project or contribute to one of the open source projects which TechX is working on with some guidance. And then once you learn that, you can free flow yourself, right? Now you can go on in any of these GitHub repos and start contributing yourselves, like all of us are already doing. Right. So register, do all the steps for your portfolio. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on Discord or email or reach out to TechX. They'll respond to you. And we hope all the best for your successful tech journey. And thank you everyone for attending the session, and thank you Ali for running through this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sumit. I was just going to show you the website, what right now we have. So regardless of this, I really suggest, especially that people are watching from YouTube, that join the Discord, because we really are creating a community for people to get job in the age of AI, right? So for example, we are bringing experts that helps you to deepen your understanding of these principles, software engineering principles, right? And that's what I believe is the future of companies are looking for when they want to hire. For example, we have robotics. One example is we have a mentor from Boston Dynamics. So when we say we are building a community for people to find job in the age of AI and helping you deepen your understanding in software engineering principles, that's what we mean. Like the top people that they can teach you these projects. And now you imagine you are doing these projects and you're getting mentorship and feedback from those mentors. Imagine the quality of the project you're going to have in your GitHub. But regardless of this, make sure, I think that at least you want to be in Discord. That's where We are building these communities for everyone together, help each other, right? And we will do like these free sessions of things like this, right? The open source session, things that can differentiate you from the crowd, because the reality is very competitive, right? The market is very competitive, so these are the things you want to do, and we really want to build that community. So yeah, definitely join. And guys, or people that are watching, open source hackathon channel, that's the place. If you want to, you have questions to ask, or a repo, right? A repo that you want to contribute, just put it there. Say, okay, can anyone help me what to contribute, right? And people can help, I can help, or other mentors can help. But yeah, thanks Sumit, and thanks to everyone that joined. Hopefully, you learned something and you enjoyed this session. And I'll see you guys on next sessions.
We want to open the floor, like if you have any last comments or questions from the audience.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, can ask now. We can answer. And also, again, in Discord, you can always ask questions even later.
Yeah. So, hi Ali, I have one simple question. So, can you give the brief intro about your team? What are you doing exactly? Because this one I not get. What are exactly idea? Because this workshop I got the idea, but what are the board vision? What you are exactly doing? This why I want to know in detail.
What is the goal of TechX, or is that what's the question?
Yeah, what about TechX? Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is, just in general, like helping people to, like, as I said, in the age of AI specifically, to get a job. Now, one of the things, right, is like this general tips, right? The open source contribution, building your portfolio, and so on. Like there's multiple. We had like one 1 month project that Sumit mentioned that people join and made really cool projects. So building your GitHub portfolio is one part, right? And that can be through contributions. Another one is having experts that you can do live meetings and go through different projects and do the projects together, right? That they can give you feedback, so you can learn and become expert in whichever area that you want to get into. For example, we have machine learning, we have robotics. So essentially, these are some examples, but essentially anything that can help people to find jobs, especially as the market is very competitive. For example, right, open source contribution is just one way to put yourself aside from the crowd. Because as I said, let's say you are going into front end and the manager asks you, okay, why should we hire you? Imagine you say, well, you're using React and I have these contributions there, right? Like imagine how many people are going to answer that? How many people are going to say, oh, I have some contributions in React? So that's why, it puts you aside from, separates you from the crowd. And that's how you get hired. You need to be differentiated. Basically, there was a book I was reading. It says, the title is Differentiate or Die. Really, that's how it is in business. I think it is in right now in this market for getting a job. I guess like every industry, I think is just a suffering. So that's what we're trying to do.
And on top of what Ali said, right? Like, earlier days was easy, 20 years back, if you have like an undergrad degree in software, it's easy to get a job. And now you see, like, even with master's degree, people struggle to find even interviews, let alone the jobs. And to get a foot in the door, people need to have those skills already. Even if you're a fresher, right? The skills are being tested upon are huge. And they assume that the field you're picking up to contribute it in the company, you already know enough about it in order to contribute. And all the companies, all the big tech companies, how they can assess those candidates who already know how they can contribute to this. And one of the cool way is to actually, this is the back channel, you can call it the back door, which is contribute to the company even before joining the company. And that's what I think Ali mentioned is the open source contributions. And that is just one way, right? So I think what TechX is doing is trying to connect all these dots which are needed in this new age of technology, where just having a degree is not enough to get a job. And the mentors, like Ali mentioned, we have mentors, FANG mentors from various companies. So the candidates who join the fellowship program, they get experience from these different mentors, and they they can contribute to the projects of their choice at the same while they are actually completing their degree or hunting for the job.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Thank you, Sumit, for explaining that. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind, and everyone, everyone for joining in. I think anybody has any question, last comment, anything? Right. Thank you, Sunil sir, for keeping your camera on throughout the session.
Actually, I have enjoyed the conversation. And I introduce, I am a general surgeon and I'm a retired general surgeon from India. I'm visiting Boston to my daughter. I'm here for the last 6 months. I am very keenly interested in the technology. And I, on my own, in YouTube, I keep on learning, watching videos. So all the terminologies are very much familiar to me.
So
All
Boston is the place for you because
all
we
the
have a lot of
components
biotech companies.
which Mr. Ali has talked, all the components are known to me. Only thing is I want to fit into them into the right place.
That's true.
So that I have really enjoyed. I liked. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we can explore further how we can.
Yeah.
With your experience, I think you have a lot of domain knowledge on.
I know the terminologies.
Yeah.
All the terminologies which you mentioned is all I know because I keep on in my free time. Because I feel this is an enigma to me. Technology is something behind that all back end, and
Right.
I really love to be into it. And let us see how things goes.
Yeah.
So Sumit, I suggested he has great interest in the technology and particularly AI. So particularly in the healthcare because he has about 40 years experience in healthcare.
Right.
And in that industry, how the AI can contribute, make the difference, and then he could be just really good candidate for that because he has great experience from that domain, that field, and then he has great an interest for the technology. So if he can pick up some of those AI things and some other technology in that in the healthcare.
Oh, definitely. I think it will be very, very good to collaborate. Yeah. So we'll reach out, Sanjeev sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sumit, to allow me to enjoy your session.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to thank Ali for coming up with this idea and everything.
Ali is wonderful. The way he explained is so vast in a small piece of it, so that somebody can. I like the analogy that how you can put your foot into a door of the job market. At least nowadays, because the world is changing so fast, that what was relevant 20 years back, like you have a degree and you are hired, but now you must have a skill. You must prove your worth so that you can introduce yourself through your work. That's what I perceive of today's interaction.
Right.
And that is what he explained. That out of I know the word GitHub and all those visual VS Code and terminal, all those things, but he told me actually the way out, way in, way in to prove your interest because the person who wants to hire you, he wants to see that you are really interested and you are already doing something.
Yeah, and work speaks for itself, right? So you don't have to say anything else other than just showing your GitHub profile or the work.
I'm so much happy to Mr. Sanjeev introduced and told me about all these things, and I feel always to remain into this atmosphere. And of course, my 45 years experience in healthcare. When in 1980, I did my master's degree in surgery, and instead of going northwards towards coming to America and to Delhi, I went to my village back and started my work. So I have good knowledge of it. I have no about anything about my knowledge about my own domain. But I want to integrate both of these things. And I'm not doing it for my job purposes. I'm just doing it for my knowledge sake.
Yeah, so just like that, we are also trying to give back to the community here. And I think we are running out of time. So thank you everyone for joining, and we will connect back, with some of you offline, online.
My WhatsApp number is with Mr. Sanjeev.
Yeah, I'll get that definitely.
All the contacts, so that will be very helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone.